So, here's a question for you. What would happen if deleting something you posted online was no longer free? Not like expensive, just not totally free. That simple question is the whole basis for this thought experiment, and it's an idea that could completely change how we behave online, shifting us from something that feels casual, like talking, to something much more permanent, like publishing.
To really get our heads around this, let's start with an analogy. Think about the difference between old-school film cameras and the digital camera on your phone. With film, you had what, maybe 24 shots on a roll? Every single click was a choice because it cost real money to develop. But now, you can snap 500 photos of your dog, delete 499 of them, and it costs absolutely nothing. The behavior is just worlds apart.
And that right there gets to a really crucial point. The argument in the source material isn't that film photographers were better because the tech was superior. Nope. As the quote says, they were better because scarcity forced mastery. It was that limitation, that built-in cost, that created discipline. And that's the exact idea we're going to apply to the words we type online. Okay, before we jump in, I gotta make something super clear. What we're about to walk through is just a thought experiment. It's not a policy I'm proposing. It's not something anyone is seriously trying to implement. It's simply a way to analyze and project how we humans might act under a new set of rules.
So, let's get to the experiment itself. The whole thing hinges on one really simple change to the system, and it's called the 60-second rule.
It's super simple, really. There are just two parts. First, you can post whatever you want and delete it for free, but only for the first 60 seconds. And second, once that 1-minute clock runs out, deleting that same post will cost you a tiny nominal fee.
And when I say small, I mean really small, like 10 cents. The amount is important because it's meant to be affordable for pretty much everyone. The goal isn't to punish people or for platforms to make money.
Instead, the tiny charge is what the source calls a friction event. All it does is take something we do without thinking, hitting delete, and turns it into a conscious decision. That tiny moment of pause, that's the entire point of the experiment. Which, of course, probably makes you wonder, why 60 seconds? Why not 5 minutes? Or, 30 seconds? What's so special about 1 minute? Well, this is where the psychology gets really interesting. A minute is just about enough time to realize you made a typo and fix it, but it's way too short to post something edgy, wait to see if people get mad, and then quietly delete it if they do. It's built specifically to break that cycle of post and retreat. Okay, so let's play this out. Imagine this rule gets announced. What on earth happens in the 72 hours before it actually goes into effect? While the source predicts, we'd see something called the Great Deletion. The second the announcement hits, deletion would just skyrocket. People would be scrambling to wipe their old digital histories. This would put a crazy amount of strain on the servers, which are built to handle new posts, not massive deletions. And then, on day 3, boom, the new rule kicks in. And you can just imagine the public debate would explode, right? Two sides would form almost instantly. You'd have Camp 1 arguing that deleting your own words is a fundamental right. And then you'd have Camp 2 arguing that, hey, maybe some permanence is good for accountability. So in those final hours, you'd see two totally different behaviors. You'd have a small, anxious group frantically trying to delete years' worth of stuff. But the vast majority of us, we'd probably be paralyzed. The task of auditing our entire online life is so overwhelming, we'd just do nothing. Inertia would win, as it almost always does.
All right, so the rule is in place. The initial chaos is over. What happens now? What does life actually look like in this new world, where everything is basically on the permanent record?
So here's the twist. The biggest long-term change wouldn't even be about deleting. It would be about creating. Once that safety net of free, easy deletion is gone, the whole act of hitting post just feels different. The impulse changes. And this change wouldn't hit everyone the same way. Take a look at this chart. Professional users, like brands, journalists, people who already see their posts as permanent, they wouldn't change much. But casual users, the people just sharing thoughts in daily life, their posting frequency would drop and drop sharply. So what you end up with is an internet that just feels different. It's quieter, it's more curated, and it's a lot less informal. Not because people left, but because all that casual, spontaneous chatter relied on the safety of knowing you could just take it back for free. But, it's also really important to talk about what doesn't change. First, social media doesn't just die. People and platforms would just adapt. Second, because the fee is so small, it's not a real economic barrier, so it doesn't silence vulnerable groups. And finally, this doesn't magically make everyone nicer. Permanence creates calculation, not necessarily kindness. And all of this brings us right to the core insight of the whole thought experiment. It's about a fundamental shift in our culture, from one of speaking to one of publishing.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. The old internet felt a lot like talking. It was informal, reactive, and you can always take things back. In this new world, online expression becomes more like writing a book. It's more considered, it feels authored, and it's permanent. Your words just carry more weight.
Because in the end, it was never about the 10 cents. The real cost, the entire point of that little friction event, was the moment of decision it forced upon us. That tiny pause between regret and erasure, that was everything.
And that leaves us with this one final, really powerful thought from the source material. We have been speaking. We are about to start publishing. It's a simple, tiny change that could completely redefine how we express ourselves online, and it really makes you wonder, which world is actually better?